Hey guys, it's Craig from Well Accountants. Today we're going to talk about, do you need to lodge a tax return? So every year the Commissioner from the Tax Office puts out a legislative instrument that details criteria that may mean you need to lodge a tax return or you don't. So that's what we're going to look at today, the one for the 22 financial year. So let's get started. So we scroll down. The first group of people are called Table A. So typically the Table A relates to individuals. The most common reason you need to lodge a tax return is that you've had any amounts withheld from your any payment. So common one is wages. So if there's even $1 of withholding tax, you'll need to lodge a tax return. So sort of a subset of this point one. You've got other payments that have withholding, similar to wages. The most common one here is actually the dividend. So if you've got a dividend that has franking credits, similar to withholding tax, you'll need to lodge a tax return. So if we scroll down, you can see there's quite a big list here. I'll just sort of point out the common ones that we find. If you've incurred a tax loss, so for some reason your work-related expenses are more than your wages, then you'll need to prepare a tax return. If you've got a net capital loss, you need to prepare a tax return. Another big one is if you're carrying on a business, so there's common sole traders. So maybe you were a sole trader the whole year. You've may have not made much money. Doesn't matter. You're a business, so it means you need to lodge a tax return. So if you're a beneficiary of a trust, so yeah, you need to lodge that too. Another big one is if you've got installments. Usually these are quarterly installments that are issued from ATO. If you're paying those, then you'll definitely need to lodge a tax return. If you've got, some people, when they're employed, they have a lot of their wages salary sacrificed, whether it's a fringe benefit or it's just straight into super. So these reportable benefits, even $1 means you need to lodge a tax return. One of the biggest, and I'm sure most people have seen this around, is if your assessable income is just more than $18,200. Once again, this is for the 22 financial year, so they do issue it every year, and it does change slightly, but relatively the same year on year. If you've made a personal super contribution, if you've received a super lump sum payment, and there's an untaxed element, you'll need to prepare a tax return there. So that pretty much covers if you're an individual return. Most commonly, if you're over $18,200 of, say, wages, or you've had at least $1 withheld from your wages, something like that, you're going to need to lodge a tax return. If not, then you don't need to lodge one. So we'll move on, and the next one we'll talk about now is the company. So if you have a company, usually it's under this Table C. So Table C mentions here full assessment taxpayer. So if you scroll up to the definitions, it should be here somewhere. So it just mentions everything. So company, trust, there's quite a few there, but you'll see, if you scroll back down, it actually excludes those out of the group. So it's basically just companies. So if your company is a resident, Australian resident, which, well, if it's incorporated here, it will be, and you've derived income in or out of Australia, it doesn't matter. So that means $1 of income for your company, you'll lodge a tax return. Pretty straightforward. So next one is superannuation funds. So self-managed super funds, same story. Pretty low criteria here. You just got to be an Australian resident. So pretty much every super fund will lodge a tax return there. So move on. So for trust, similar to companies, it just says that, if there's any income, so same story. The next one we'll look at, so there's a few other sort of tables here, but these are sort of very niche, don't come up very often, so I'll just skip over those, we'll go over the common ones. So this section here, Table K, it talks a bit about a specific type of person, and what they're talking about is if you meet these criteria, you don't need to lodge a tax return. The exemptions from lodging a tax return. So if you've had any of this income, and all these that are listed here are just government payments. So if you had a government payment, basically you had no other income, or for those that have sort of $10 of interest on their bank account, which happens, the taxable income needs to be less than that $21,000 there. And then it just means you don't need a lodge a tax return. So very common. We do find some people still get their return prepared anyway, but it's not a requirement. Right, so the last one that comes up quite often is actually the table P. Where is it? Yep, table P here. So you can see it talks about the specific person here is someone that comes to Australia on a working holiday visa. ATO calls them working holiday maker here. So for those, if you've had no other income and your taxable income was less than that 45K, you don't need to lodge a tax return. But let's say, for example, that you're working holiday visa, you've done some, orchard work or, working at a cafe, and you've earned $50,000. Well, you've earned over the 45, so that means, you need to lodge a tax return. So pretty straightforward. We hope the video was informative. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out or, give us a like. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.